course, everyone is aware that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsberg passed away Friday night, and apparently the world is about to end because the fabled progressive legal icon, the notorious RBG, is gone, and she was the last bastion of progressive interpretation of the Constitution. And now the Republicans are going to appoint Ted Cruz to the court, and we're all going to have to decide whether we want to be handmaids or cooks or speakeasy entertainers, like in Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Only much of Ginsberg's reputation as a progressive or even traditionally liberal icon is absolute fiction. As much as Ginsberg did vote to uphold voting rights, was a champion for women's reproductive rights, and voted against Citizens United, and actually said that if she had one ruling that she could overturn with a word, that would be the one. There are issues with her legacy on the court that cannot be ignored or dismissed, because those legal decisions were incredibly harmful to vulnerable people, and that's not a progressive ideal at all. Though she dissented strongly on the case that eviscerated the Voting Rights Act, which was Shelby v. Holder, Ginsberg didn't have a record of vociferous challenges to conservative incursions upon the interpretation of the Constitution before then. When the court was deciding Bush v. Gore, actually Ginsberg was going to add a footnote to her dissent that raised the issue of Black voter disenfranchisement. But Antonin Scalia, her best friend on the court, got mad and told her that she was using Al Sharpton tactics in raising the issue of voter disenfranchisement among Black people. So she took the footnote out because her friend got mad about it. She then voted in favor of the police conducting warrantless searches of parolees in Sampson v. California, signing on to the majority opinion written by Clarence Thomas, who said that parolees have no expectation of privacy that society has to respect because they're finishing their sentences outside of prison, but they haven't completed their sentences before being released, so they're still in the legal custody of the state. The people who look like the real notorious BIG are overwhelmingly victims of that kind of procedure. But Ginsberg agreed that it was okay. She abstained from signing on to the famous dissent from Justice Kennedy about the evils of solitary confinement, especially long-term solitary confinement that so many of our political prisoners are enduring, and the ongoing harms it causes stemming from the case of Davis v. Ayala. In other cases regarding police powers, Ginsberg sided with the police state in Hyen versus North Carolina, allowing the police to pull people over if they think they're violating the law, even if it turns out that the cops actually don't understand the law and are wrong about it, as long as they can say that it was a mistake. In Taylor v. Barks, the court denied the family of a suicidal man the ability to sue the jail for not implementing anti-suicide measures when they jailed him, knowing full well that he was suicidal. And in Plumhoff v. Richard, the court denied the family of the victim of a police shooting the ability to sue the police after they shot and killed their family member when he fled a police stop. Now, I'm not sure how people figure that someone who cites the doctrine of discovery in their opinion against the Oneida Nation, denying them sovereignty over land that was stolen from them that they purchased back. But Ginsberg did note in her opinion that the doctrine of discovery nullifies sovereignty for indigenous nations, and that she didn't want the Oneida Nation to rekindle an idea that had, quote, long gone cold. That's indigenous sovereignty over their land because of the doctrine of discovery. She said that. I did not make it up. In one of her last cases, Ginsberg sided with the Trump administration in denying due process to asylum seekers whose cases were initially denied by immigration officials, which allows them to be fast-tracked for deportation without a hearing before a judge. And I'm not exactly sure why people make excuses for her comments about Kaepernick's protests either. Calling the former NFL quarterbacks kneeling to raise the issue of police brutality in an allegedly free country, Ginsberg said the protest was really dumb, but that she wouldn't lock anyone up for doing it. Sure, she apologized for it later, sort of, by saying that she was barely aware of the incident or its purpose and that she should have declined to respond, which to me doesn't really sound like an apology, never did, but it also sounds like this whole issue wasn't important enough for me to even educate myself on why it was being done. And I still don't know, and I still don't care, so I shouldn't have said anything about it at all in the first place. That's actually not an apology for dismissing Kaepernick and Eric Reid's efforts to raise the issue of police brutality on the NFL field, but people are sure acting like she made it all okay by making a statement that seemed just as bad as the first one. Ultimately, though, this entire issue about the death of Justice Ginsburg, with her settler colonial imperialist opinions upholding the settler colonial imperialist police state, is really less about her than it is about the political system in which people believe that our rights rely on 1 or 9 unelected people who are appointed to a lifetime position deciding whether we actually have rights or can keep them. That's the problem. Ultimately, this goes back to the Obama administration also, when the popular president had a Democratic majority in Congress and could have thrown hundreds of judges on the courts to secure against the alleged crisis people are wringing their hands over now. But not only did he not do it intentionally because he didn't want to engage in the culture wars that the GOP trafficked in, that's what he said, but his strategy was to not make judicial appointments a priority. But when he did ask Ginsburg to retire, which would have actually given him 2 Supreme Court appointees, she refused, saying that she didn't think he could get anybody better than her appointed, and later said that she wanted to let Hillary Clinton appoint her successor. Well, that strategy worked out peachy, didn't it? And people tried to warn the Democrats that the courts needed attention way back in 2008, 2009, but they ignored the Black folks and the anti-war folks and the anti-capitalist folks and the other left radicals who did point out the ways that Obama was failing us, and people shunned them for the symbolic satisfaction of having a Black family in the people's house. So most people who are all upset about Ruth Bader Ginsberg passing away and the Republicans having a Supreme Court appointment slot now, most of those folks simply refuse to join the effort to challenge Obama and Biden over court appointees. Just that issue then. And now, the same people want us to vote for one of the people responsible for this mess. And I'm not sure how people think I should be clutching my pearls about this, because I'm not. You better be organizing, because you're going to have to do it regardless of who wins the White House in November. Find a radical organization and get to work right now. Follow Lukman Nation on patreon.com/LukmanNation for lots of great content.